So you've seen the buffs and you've heard the stories about how good Resto Shaman is in Mythic Plus, and now you're ready to jump on that bandwagon and learn how to play the spec. There's no shame in that. That's what I did too. So in this guide, I want to give you a build that's going to get you started quickly, teach you the healing rotation, teach you the healing cooldowns, how to do damage, how to use your utility. It's all going to be in the timestamps below so you can jump around to whatever you're interested in. Let's do it. So let's go over some shaman talents to start out with. If you wanted to screenshot this section and move on, or just grab this talent string from the description, you're welcome to do that. And you can just skip this section, but we're going to just briefly go over these talents and our justification for taking them. This is kind of a cookie cutter build I'd recommend in Mythic Plus at the moment. This build focuses on chain heal and earth shield talents, as well as provides a lot of utility and damage. On the class side, we're going to head down the leftmost side and grab lots of shield talents, earth shield, and then elemental orbit, which will allow you to have an extra earth shield on an ally and have 2 shields active on yourself. Then we'll follow that up with surging shields to get more healing out of these earth shields. We'll get our last piece of the shield puzzle in the spec tree. Moving along, we'll follow the left side all the way down through the graceful spirit for a little more mobility into nature's swiftness for a nice little mini cooldown, allowing us to cast a spell instantly, which we can use to pop off a quick healing surge or chain heal in a pinch. Next, we'll grab Healing Stream Totem and Swirling Currents to buff our Cloudburst Totem, and then down from Lava Burst, we'll take Fire and Ice for a little more damage, followed by Ancestral Defense for a little more defense. Improved Purify Spirit is a dungeon by dungeon talent. If you need a curse removal like Jade Serpent, for example, you should take it, but don't waste a point in it otherwise. Elemental Warding will help us out a bit defensively and lead us to Ancestral Guidance. Really good cooldown that we're going to get a ton of use from. We'll go over more on how to use it in the cooldown section of the video. Moving over one column to the right, we'll take our awesome Kick Wind Shear, our Oh No the Tank Died button, Earth Elemental, Windrush Totem to speed up our friends, and then Thunderstorm into Thunder Shock for a very useful low cooldown stop we can use to interrupt all kinds of fun things. Moving to the right again, we grab our defensive Astral Shift and then Plains Traveler to reduce its cooldown. Follow that up with Capacitor Totem for even more ways to stop mobs, and a couple points into Nature's Guardian for more survivability. Finally, we'll grab Spirit Wolf for even more mobility and survivability, Chain Lightning, one of our biggest DPS abilities, Brimming with Life for more defensiveness, and Nature's Fury since crit is a good stat for us. Purge is another dungeon-specific talent. You'll really want it in places like Knockhead and Ruby Life Pools, but in some dungeons it can be ignored. Onto the spec tree, where we start with basics and take everything from the first 3 rows to get us started. Starting on the left again, we're going to grab Acid Rain, which is a monstrous DPS talent for us. Flow of the Tides is a core talent to the build. It's going to take our Chain Heal and make it bounce one more time and increase the amount of healing Chain Heal does on a target with Riptide by 30%, consuming the Riptide. We'll pick up Healing Tide Totem, a rather situational healing cooldown, and then take Undulation for some throughput, and Primordial Wave as another mini healing cooldown. Tidebringer is another core chain heal talent synergy. Basically every 8 seconds you get a proc of a super chain heal, which matches perfectly with High Tide, where you'll get another proc from using mana, making your chain heal 10% more and not reduce with each jump. All these chain heal talents combined are going to make your chain heal a beast, and we'll talk about how to use it in the rotation section. Okay, back to the tree. We want Stormbringer, which is a nice DPS cooldown that can also be comboed with Ancestral Guidance into a healing cooldown. Heading down the center, we take Shaman's iconic healing cooldown, Spirit Link Totem, and then Lava Surge, which will make it so your Flame Shock procs give you an instant Lava Burst and Echo of the Elements for another charge of Lava Burst and Riptide. We're going to head down the right side, grabbing Tidal Waves and Water Totem Mastery into Cloudburst Totem. Cloudburst Totem is a really nice throughput talent that feels good to play with. And finally, we're going to head to Mana Tide Totem, followed by Spirit Walker's Tide Totem. The nice part about these 2 talents is that when you pop Mana Tide Totem, you'll have a 10-second window where your chain heals will be super fast at a very low mana cost, and chain heal can eat up some mana pretty quickly. Now we're going to finish off our Earth Shield talents by taking Earth and Harmony, which is going to make our Earth Shields reduce the damage taken by 6%, which is super nice, since you're going to be able to have one on yourself and one on someone else, generally the tank. And from here, we go down to a potent healing cooldown with Ascendancy. There are a lot of viable talents and flexibility within the Shaman tree, guys. Purge and Improved Purify are dungeon specific. You You can also try out things like Ancestral Awakening instead of Primordial Wave if you want one less button to press, so play around with different combos. This is just what's been working for me lately. With talents out of the way, let's briefly talk stats. I generally push you for item level here in most cases, but if you're looking to put some stats on a crafted item or have 2 items of the same level, crit and burst are very good, but you also don't want to neglect haste either, as it especially helps you with your DPS. I'd recommend going for a good balance of these 3 stats and avoid Mastery for Mythic Plus if you can. Now for the fun part, let's talk healing rotation. Shaman has one of the most straightforward healing styles in the game, which is why I often recommend it to new healers, but it also has enough depth to keep you interested and make the spec fun for advanced players too. First off, your upkeep spells. Remember, we spec pretty heavily into shield, so we want to make sure we maintain an earth shield on ourselves and the tank with as much uptime as possible. You're both going to get healing benefits from it as well as 6% damage reduction. Also keep water shield on yourself for mana. You have 2 charges of Riptide, and you want to keep them off cooldown as much as possible, meaning ideally you have 3+ Riptides running on your group all the time. I'm not going to go over them all as there's so many, but just know you have many talents that synergize or are optimized when used on targets with Riptide, and you want to have as many of these rolling on your group as possible. On top of that, try and maintain high uptime on your healing rain. It doesn't heal for a ton, but since we're talented into acid rain, you're going to be doing a ton of damage with it. Finally, you can essentially use Cloudburst off CD whenever there's little damage going out. Cloudburst Totem basically saves a portion of the healing that you do while it's up and then bursts, imagine that, and divides that amount among your party. Those Riptides and Healing Rains are going to contribute a lot of healing into your Cloudburst Totem, and while you might try and min-max this a bit when you get a little bit more advanced, you can pretty much drop Cloudburst during times when you're doing healing and it will mostly take care of itself. Once more damage is going out than your simple maintenance spells can handle, we can dip into some other heals. Healing Surge and Healing Wave are your single target spot heals. Healing Surge costs a little bit more mana, heals for a little bit less, and casts a little bit faster, while Healing Wave is more efficient, heals for more, but it's a good deal slower. We obviously spent a lot of talents buffing our chain heal and want to make good use of it, but at the same time we want to maximize those talent points and use the spell wisely. To do this, it's nice to hold your chain heal until you have the benefits of both High Tide and Tidebringer, and then make sure you cast it on someone with a Riptide active on them, preferably one that's about to drop off if you really want to min-max your healing. This is how you're going to get fast, big chain heals that really move the health bars of your party and not run yourself out of mana. I'd recommend your chain heal buffs having them tracked somewhere on your UI so you're aware of the optimal time to use it. So if you like the UI you see on screen here, you can check out the join button here on YouTube to access my full UI, imports, add-ons, and all that, but please don't spam chain heal brainlessly and say it's not a good spell. Remember, with our talent build, we can also drop a Mana Tide totem to get even faster chain heals for 10 seconds while getting super mana efficient casts as well. So Shaman is a class with lots of cooldowns, both big and small, so let's get into our healing cooldowns. We'll start with our mini cooldowns and kind of work our way up from there. Nature's Swiftness basically makes your next nature spell instant. There's a few ways you can utilize it. The classic way is as a single target oh shit button when somebody drops critically low. Remember that Healing Wave heals for more than Healing Surge, so it's better used with Nature's Swiftness for this purpose. It can also be used with a chain heal if it's an emergency AoE situation that you're in. If you're confident that you won't need it for healing, you can always use it for an instant chain lightning for some quick damage as well. Another mini cooldown is Primordial Wave. Primordial Wave will put a Riptide on a target and then make your next Healing Wave heal everyone with Riptide on them. So if you've been on top of your Riptides and you have several of them out, you can use Primordial Wave on someone with no Riptide, then Healing Wave someone to have that Healing Wave hit everyone with Riptide. You can even use Nature's Swiftness on that Healing Wave to get the healing out really fast. It's an okay way to heal AoE damage, but it's not amazing, and Primordial Wave is not a talent everyone takes, so use your discretion as to whether or not you want to run this talent. I kind of go back and forth. Next, let's talk Ancestral Guidance, which is significant because it's a fairly big cooldown, but it's 2 minutes rather than 3 like your other big ones, so I usually consider this to be my first major cooldown I pop on a boss, fight, or a big trash damage event. AG converts 25% of the healing and damage you do into healing for your party, making it a nice throughput cooldown. One of my favorite things to do is line it up with a Stormkeeper so that when you pop Ancestral Guidance, you instantly throw out 2 Chain Lightning or Lightning Bolts and get a big burst of healing from that. Use this first on a boss fight and you'll very likely get a second use of it toward the end of the fight. Spirit Link Totem is a 3-minute cooldown that you're going to want to think of as a health equalizer, since that's essentially what it does. It's best used when there is a notable discrepancy in the health of party members, as it will increase the HP of lower health people, but can lower the HP of higher health people, and it's not as great if everyone is super low. You can use this on any number of people, so don't be afraid to throw it out if it just saves one person's life that drops critically low, but it's also a very good stabilizer when big AoE is going out. Finally, another 3-minute cooldown is Ascendancy. This duplicates your healing and spreads it across your group. This is a great cooldown to pop when your group is taking a lot of damage, and the more healing you do in an Ascendant form, the more you'll benefit from the cooldown. So follow the general good rules of playing Healing Shaman when you have this running. Also, don't neglect the fact that it does a pretty notable amount of healing on you when you pop it, which can be life-saving. Finally, let's talk Healing Tide Totem. This doesn't heal for a huge amount, but it can help support you during long, consistent damage phases like Azurblade's Ad phase. Just don't rely on it alone to keep your group alive through big damage, but if you need a little extra healing oomph, especially if you need to do a lot of moving or dodging, Healing Tide can help you with that. Like all the healing specs, a big part of your success in keys is going to be how well you rotate through your cooldowns and using the right ones in the right situations. Use them as often as you reasonably can to get a feeling for what they do and what works well in which situation. So that does it for healing, but some of the biggest strengths and most fun moments playing Resto Shaman are actually more based around your damage and utility, so let's get over those really quickly. Shaman is a very high damage healer, and the rotation is pretty easy to keep up with. We want to keep Flame Shock up on as many targets as we can to fish for Lava Burst procs. This will give you Master the Elements buff, which you can then use to buff a subsequent spell like Chain Lightning or Healing Rain. For 2+ targets, we're going to want to keep as much uptime on our Acid Rain as we can and just spam Chain Lightning whenever we have the opportunity. Pretty easy rotation, capable of doing a load of damage from the healer spot. Utility is something I get pretty excited about from the Resto Shaman, especially if you do a lot of pugging like I do. Resto Shaman just has a lot of control over trash pulls, which means you can be your own best friend and prevent a ton of damage from going out. You have a 12-second kick with Wind Shear and should be actively competing with the other members of your group for most interrupts on a run. You have Capacitor Totem as an AoE stun on a minute cooldown, so try to put it to good use. You also have Thunderstorm with Thundershock on a 25-second cooldown to stop casts and interrupt mobs, but keep in mind you need to be within 10 yards of the enemy to hit them with it. It really can't stress enough how amazing it is to have this much control as a healer, and you can really reduce the amount of healing you need to do by not letting dangerous casts and abilities go out, so use your CC. Earth Elemental is a great emergency spell. If a tank ever goes down, this should be something you instantly press because it can tank incredibly well and save your group from a wipe. It also can be great if there's something nasty on the tank like a Mortal Strike and they need some breathing room, so definitely worth the point we spent here. Just remember to hit it anytime that tank goes down. And also we did spend a point in Windrush Totem, so don't forget to lay that down to help yourself and others get a little speed boost to move out of mechanics or wherever necessary. So I really hope this guide helps you guys on your journey to getting started with your Resto Shaman and Mythic Plus. If you think I forgot anything, go ahead and let me know in the comments section. And if you made it this far, I always appreciate a thumbs up on the video. Subscribe to see more of my content in the future, and check out my stream right here on YouTube, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday nights, where we do healing on Shaman and lots of other specs. It's always a good time, and I'd love to see you there. So until next time, guys, happy healing.